We just stumbled across the most gnarly looking trail. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Today is day 2 of this Ireland trip, and we are out in the Wicklow Mountains testing out some prototype versions of the YX1. So if you guys don't know what this is and you haven't caught the previous video, I'll leave a link to it right up there in the corner. But we're riding them right now, up through the mountains, sort of location scouting to see where the best place to test these would be. So far we started on some hilly, grassy areas early morning yesterday, and then we ended on the beach with some hardpack sand, some loose stuff, and now we're looking for the more mountainous type of areas where I personally am interested in seeing how these things will perform, because this is very similar to my mountain land and similar terrain as well. Rocks, gravel, hills. We got a Yal back there on one. I am of course riding one of them. And then we got John in front of us on an electric unicycle. We just stumbled across the most gnarly looking trail. This is pretty dope. Electric unicycle through it. We're gonna be able to get some pretty cool shots through here. So if you haven't caught the previous video, I'll kind of catch you up to speed on what the YX1 is. It's this 3-wheel contraption here, another electric style vehicle, electric rideable, and this is the whole reason I'm here, to test out this prototype before it goes into a final production. What do you think of it?
That's awesome.
Good?
Yeah, it's so dark in there, yo.
Yeah. That's fun, dude.
Oh, it's really easier.
Yeah. So these things are all really about like what they're capable of, and as you can see, we can ride them pretty much anywhere that we're willing to as of now. After all the testing locations, this is probably gonna be one of my favorites. Hey, look at all the sheep over here. Hello. But yeah, after all of the testing so far, I mean, I've ridden this in a lot of different environments, and it's just been unique in every single one of them, and it works too. There's a lot of like unique features about it that make it capable of doing what it does, so we'll talk about those right now, I guess. Alright, so I have Barry from YX1 here, and I'm just going to kind of give you my overall thoughts on like the design and everything, and you can just correct me if I'm wrong at any time. So this thing was originally named the tilt board because of the tilting action. So as you guys can see, when we're riding around on all these trails and basically anywhere, this thing leans really hard all the way to one side and then back to the other side. Excuse all the mud and dirt on this one because we've been putting this thing through the ringer today, but it allows these two arms to kind of independently move, keeping tension with the spring, and then you have like a, reminds me of like a control arm for a car underneath there, and that's kind of what keeps everything stable. In the front here obviously is where you're going to have the motor controller and the battery, and in the end plan, once this thing comes to production, that is going to be swappable, hopefully.
Battery pack, yeah, so it'll be extendable.
So there's going to be things that are obviously different compared to how you're seeing it now, but that is going to be one nice feature for sure. That way you can ride all day long, not have to worry about it. Before we come up to the controls, we'll keep moving back. You have fenders in place, which are super important because As you guys can tell, I'm pretty muddy. We're riding these things in like some gnarly places, so that's a nice touch. And then this one, you can move it around and adjust it. Basically, this thing to me is like pretty much like working on a car. Like you can change things and modify them to fit your needs with whatever type of riding you're going to be doing. You got the whole suspension system back here, so as you step on here, you can see this thing moving around. That's another nice touch too, compared to some other all-terrain electric vehicles. They don't really have that. You got a really nice wide stance on here with some pretty aggressively contoured foot pads. Keeps the nose high, that way if you're running over any rocks or through some high brush, you just kind of plow right through it. And then right here, this is the, what is this called? Like the control
handle, so that's gives you control on turns, balance.
So at first I thought this was kind of a weird design. I was like, why wouldn't you go with a remote? But this thing actually adds more functionality than you would think just by looking at it. So this is all going to change, so don't expect this to be on the final model. But right here is the accelerator. So you got the throttle right here, obviously press it to go. Got a brake underneath. On the other model, it's going to be a little bit shorter, which I personally like that. So hopefully that goes into the final one. And then you can also have a throttle on this side, which I would prefer. This one right now is not active. It's just a prototype for testing, but you can use it either way. If you're a goofy footed rider and you're standing on this side, then that would be ideal, having your hand like that and pushing down on it. So what's also great about this is the ability to move it around. So my initial kind of concern was that this thing was going to be a little bit difficult to move around, and the portability, it is on the heavier side when you're comparing it to all the other electric vehicles out there, but this alone right here, grab handle, you can wheel this thing into the elevators like we were in the morning, and yeah, it's actually pretty maneuverable. And then with this cable here, you can kind of tuck it out of the way, but you can use your throttle and pull it up onto one wheel and then just kind of position where you want it to go. So you just kind of like rotate your wrist, and it's surprisingly maneuverable. That's one thing that I wasn't really expecting at first, but it's a pretty cool design. All right guys, we have one last scenic view for this stop, and it's really windy, so please excuse that, but check out this view. The YX up here looking all majestic. So now you can probably hear me. We are finishing up some filming and more testing and things like that. These guys are actually filming for some future like ad stuff, and I don't know what it's going to be in the end, but it's been a lot of fun so far. One last ride in the cold. It's starting to feel like fall now here in Ireland. And just like that, I'm back in Dublin at the airport getting ready to catch a flight back to America. But I didn't leave empty-handed. I got some very nice bottles of Irish whiskey here, so I will be enjoying those. And overall, Ireland has been great. I gotta give a huge thank you to the guys at YX1 for setting this whole trip up and letting me come out and test these early prototypes. I know the videos weren't super in depth and they weren't the longest videos ever, but I could make like a full-length feature film on these things because there's just so much to talk about and so much to do with them. The reason why I kept things pretty broad is because what you did see us riding and everything that you've seen in this video and the previous, they're prototypes. tips. I know I keep saying this, but people are going to start asking some very specific questions on details regarding the specs and pricing and things like that. And the best thing that I can tell you right now is that although the videos were short when the camera was not rolling, we were pretty much on these things full time. So I have some pretty good experience with them so far, and I'm excited to see where the product's gonna go in the future. If you wanna find out information that they have published right now, of course, a link to their website is going to be in the top of the description, so you can go down and check that out. They are available for pre-order on their website, and you're going to be able to get a very big discount compared to what the final production is going to cost. So if you get in and sort of back that early, then chances are you will save a lot of money in the long run. We were also filming some content for them to put on an Indiegogo campaign and possibly a Kickstarter. I'm not exactly sure which one it's going to be on, but if I had to guess, I'd say Indiegogo. In the future, once something like that goes live, I will of course share that across all my social medias, and you can follow them on places like Instagram and Facebook too if you want to directly ask those guys questions. Like I mentioned, I did spend a lot of time with them while I was here in Ireland, so if you want to know some specifics on how things felt or just like different sensations, some more like actual feelings of the sensation of the ride, if you want to know more about that stuff, you can ask some questions in the comments down below and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. I'm not sure when you will be seeing the YX1 again here on the channel. I'm not sure when you'll be seeing Ireland again here on the channel, but hopefully all of that stuff happens sooner than later because it's a beautiful country. I had a great time while I was here, and yeah, can't say thank you enough to the guys at YX1. So that's it for today. Got a long flight ahead of me, about 8 hours back east. Well, technically west, but I'm going to the East Coast, so whatever. Hopefully I can sleep. That's all for this trip. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you're new to the channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week. It's gonna be all for today, so as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.